Now, what are the important issues to be discussed during this year's summit?
I think in this year's summit, possibly the most important issue is China's contribution to connectivity in Southeast Asia. As you know, China has unfurled the One Belt, One Road initiative, and it has been playing a major role in infrastructure construction in Southeast Asia. Possibly one of the symbols of this infrastructure construction is the medium-speed railway that they are going to build in Indonesia. So I think connectivity will become a very important element in the discussion. And of course, there will also be other discussions, for example, on topics like the Code of Conduct on the maritime territories and how ASEAN and China can work within the possible framework of the Code of Conduct.
Now, the ASEAN community was established at the end of 2015, marking a big step in the integration of ASEAN countries. As we are seeing uncertainties in the world in terms of both political and economic factors, will the integration of ASEAN forge ahead, and what kind of attention will be given to this topic during this summit in your eyes?
The ASEAN Economic Community was formed in December 2015, and it wants to be a community to ensure that there's integration of the economies within Southeast Asia, to break down the barriers so that there can be free flow of goods and services between ASEAN countries. Now, ASEAN Economic Community does not pretend to be very ambitious. It has started off with little fanfare, and it wants to capitalize on ASEAN's principle and philosophy, which is consensus building decision-making process. So it is a small step for a very long process in the future, and it wants to build upon economic cooperation that already exists in the ASEAN Southeast Asian region. So this is an opportunity for all major powers, including China, to play a role, and this fits and complements China's role in the infrastructure building and connectivity offering of technology and know-how very closely. And of course, China's AIIB, Infrastructure Investment Bank, can also play a role in funding some of these much-needed projects. And this helps connectivity. Connectivity in terms helps economic integration. It also facilitates the free flow of goods, which is very much what the AEC or ASEAN Economic Community wants.
Yeah, well, as you just said, some people have also criticized the ASEAN for being a talk shop. What is your assessment of what might come out of it and the benefits of having this consensus-based process?
The consensus-based process ensures that when the community is formed, it is sustainable. And this is very important, especially in the global context, because as you can see in the global context, there is a pushback against globalization, against regionalization, against free flow of ideas, people, and goods. So ASEAN is proceeding very carefully, according to consensus, to ensure that their initiatives are sustainable. So it does not pretend to be ambitious. It wants to focus on the economic integration first, break down the barriers, lower tariff barriers, ensure free flow of goods, and this can lead to what is normally called the spaghetti bowl or the noodle bowl effect, in which there's a lot of trade linkages, and it becomes an intricate network of trade linkages that helps to prevent economic and political tensions and conflicts from happening, because different ASEAN economies are so integrated with each other.
Sure. Now, according to China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, since the start of this year, 2 rounds of consultations have been held on a draft framework of the Code of Conduct on the South China Sea. China says it is confident that the consultations will be completed within the first half of this year, and China will continue working with ASEAN countries to try to reach the COC itself by consensus at an early date. What progress, if any, can we expect from this upcoming summit?
I think there's a lot of consensus between China and ASEAN that it does not want the maritime areas to have any conflicts. And this is an opportune moment because the chair of the rotating chair happens to be the Philippines, and Manila currently has the Duterte administration, which has friendly overtures to China. And it is trying to use the framework to ensure that tensions are contained, that accidents can be prevented, and procedures can be laid out. So it takes officials to talk at different levels, besides summits at different levels, lower levels, mid-level officials, to ensure that the code of conduct can be sustainable. And there is hope that at least the broad macro framework, the vision can be laid out.
Finally, U.S. Vice President Mike Pence announced that U.S. President Donald Trump would participate in the 5th ASEAN-US summit in November. We know the Obama administration was very close to ASEAN leaders. What do you think will be Trump's policy on Southeast Asia, and how different will it be to Obama's policy in this part of the world?
One thing we have to take note is that this is Trump's, just past President Trump's 100 days in office. So this meeting is very important because it's getting to know each other. So the ASEAN countries and US President has an opportunity and a chance to get to know each other, and familiarity with each other is very important because this is a new administration. The US has been a long-standing Pacific power and also a very long-standing participant in ASEAN affairs. So it is hope that both parties, ASEAN and the US administration, after getting to know each other, can then lead on to much more concrete cooperation. And ASEAN is open to all major powers, including the US as well as China, to participate in issues and also in areas like infrastructure building, which traditionally has been the case with US, Japan, and also with China. So all these big powers can play a very important role, and then this provides the institutional platform for further cooperation to happen henceforth.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tai Wei Lim, Research Fellow from the East Asian Institute at the National University of Singapore.